We don't hit home runs on this podcast. We work station to station. I have motioned to the bullpen and called in Rob for this episode. We're going to talk about the Blue Jays' first series win of the season, Rob.
Yeah, first series win. Happy about that. I mean, obviously you want to look for a sweep, but sweeps are hard to do. So we got the first back-to-back wins, which seems like a while because I don't know what didn't seem to be a lot of back-to-back wins last year. So we got a series win and a back-to-back win. Not much offense, if I remember correctly, on the first and third game. But happy to get a series win.
All right, we'll go into the rundown a bit here. As Rob mentioned, the Jays do win this series 2-1, and they pick up the first two games of the series, winning 5-2, and then the second game 5-3. They go on to lose the third game 6-1, and slightly misleading that game in terms of the scoreline, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Rob, I wanted to go into this first game. Was the home opener? I just wanted to know your thoughts on home opener, all the pageantry around that first game at the Rogers Center.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. I did attend last year's home opener, and that was fun. This year didn't attend, but from what I saw, did the regular shoutouts and tributes. Rogers Center seems, with the new renovations, like a better place to watch the game. Fourth home opener win in a row, I believe. I think it's the fourth one. So that's good, and sets off a good vibe after kind of not a great road trip. But I mean, starting off 10 games on the road is usually a tough task. I think it was done probably because they still had to finish up with some of the renos at the Rogers Center. But I mean, home openers are always fun, and getting a win on a home opener is always a good way to start the home stance for the 82 games.
I definitely miss not being there as well. I did have a yearly tradition when I was a bit younger of going to every home opener. I haven't been to as many of late, but there's definitely a little buzz about, spring is here, Jays return home. And Jose Barrios, Rob, he seems to be consistent to the point that I think last year at every one of his starts we were kind of looking at like how he fared because given the prior year's performance. But 6 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 walk, 6 Ks, pretty standard Jose Barrios outing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're paying him the money, it's good that he starts as the ace. I mean, I'm sure it would have been Gausman if he was healthy, but Barrios was a good substitute. So he seems to be holding his own. And I mean, this year it doesn't seem like pitching really was an issue. So at least it's solidified with him, and hopefully he's going to continue this season as a steady and consistent winning starter.
Yeah, and one of the, I guess, consistent things we're going to see in this series is the adventure that is the bullpen. Without Jordan Romano and Eric Swanson, seems to be we're kind of piecing things together. There are some arms there, but it's kind of subtracting your two pretty much best arms with the highest leverage. And the Jays led this game 4-0, and then they gave up a couple runs late via home runs. But the first couple games, it seemed like the Mariners were pretty convincingly beat.
Yeah, I mean, the Jays are definitely missing those two high leverage guys. In the first two games of the series, when the Jays were up, when you're up 3 or 4 runs, I don't know if that's considered a high leverage situation, but in game 3, clearly they weren't producing runs, which is a problem with the offense with the Jays that we all know about. So you're definitely going to need the Swansons and the Romanos coming in with those high leverage situations to close out those games, or to at least prevent those additional runs. So they are two very important pieces, and hopefully we can get them back sooner rather than later.
So the Jays do go on to win that game 5-2. Game number 2, similar scoreline. It was a 5-3 win. The Jays were actually up 5-0. Chris Bassitt on the mound. 6 2/3 inning pitch, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts. all over 115 pitches. Rob, this was basically the bounce back start that we wanted from Bassitt after a couple of stinkers.
He does provide the consistency, and still early in the season, which I don't like to say that, but it's still early in the season, so he's still trying to get his groove back. So at least he comes out of it, gets the win, and seemed a bit more confident than his other starts.
As we touched on just a moment ago, the Jays were up 5-0, and they did allow 3 late runs in this game, held on for the win. In terms of performers, we had the usual suspects, Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but I think worth some discussion. Unfortunately, Dustin under the weather, so he wasn't able to join us tonight, but Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he's off to a good start, Rob. 313 average. He has 10 hits and 32 at-bats. And his OPS plus is 125 right now, which is, he's never had an OPS plus over 100. And he already is at, in terms of wins above replacement, 0.6. So he is off to a great start. I actually thought that in terms of candidates who I would be looking to maybe shuffle around to get some better hitters in the lineup, he was kind of at the top of my list, but he's playing well. I don't really see there's any reason to take him out of the lineup at the moment.
Yeah, he's a nice little surprise. I mean, I think that's what everybody thought about. He was taken by the Jays because of his defense, but I think he always had some offense in him. Like, I know with the Yankees, whenever he came up, it was always something that I was like, oh, this guy usually gets a hit. So he's proven to be a nice little piece to the puzzle and contributing more than what we all expected. And I think that's part of it, is we had low expectations of him. So now that when he comes through with some big hits, then it just adds to its value. So hopefully he can keep that up and produce those runs that the Jays desperately need.
I think in terms of players who are not playing well right now, top of my list, I think there's 2 particular players, and Dalton Varsho and Kevin Kiermaier. And Rob, what would be your solution to this problem of Dalton Varsho and Kevin Kiermaier?
What would the solution be?
Well, I can give you some background.
When I think about it, I mean, Varsho, I think, just needs a bit of time. Maybe you put Varsho in center field, and then you put Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in left field because he is a fielder. Well, I guess that's an option, but no, then you just play Davis Snyder in left field.
Well, so I'm just going to give you some background here. So Kevin Kiermaier right now is batting .097. So he's not even batting 100.
Yeah.
He has 14 strikeouts, 3 hits.
Yeah.
So he has 3 walks. He's off to a terrible start this year. I had texted you maybe a week or so ago and basically said, I think that the Jays are going to regret signing Kevin Kiermaier. And I like Kevin Kiermaier, like what he does on the defensive side of things. I just don't think he really has enough in terms of a bat, and, more duplications in terms of guys who can play defense really well and can't really hit. It seems like a common theme on this team. But his OPS plus, and I'm not a huge stats guy, but I noticed I like stats that jump off the page to me. I quite enjoy his OPS plus. And remember, you want 100 or above, right? That's if you're above 100, you're an above average player. His OPS plus right now is -17. Yes,
yeah, that's bad.
I looked it up. That's not a joke. It's -17.
Yeah, and I mean, oh God, was I sad to see him go? I was last year when they didn't sign him, because I was getting visions of the Marcus Semien when they didn't re-sign him, or when he chose not to come here. So when he came back, when they re-signed Kiermaier, yeah, there was a little bit of excitement because he had such a good year. But I think what we lost sight of is he's another year older. So is he going to be producing the way he did that year before? Was it just a fluke year? I mean, I hope not. I hope he can turn it around. And again, going back to that, yes, it's still early in the season because he's a little bit older. Maybe it's going to take him a little bit while longer to warm up. But how long do you hold? Do you keep that, or how long do you wait for him to come around before you have to make some sort of a decision? And I mean, everybody was talking about Vogelback and Joey Votto, but maybe they take out Kevin Kiermaier and they bring in Votto, not to play the outfield, but for the bat. And then you have your outfielders as David Snyder, you Varsho in center, Springer in right. Your backup outfielder can be IKF. Your Ernie Clement on third. Justin Turner, play third once in a while, and then his DH, and then you have your Joey Votto there. I don't know. That's off the top of my head what I can think about. But I mean, if he's not producing, they need it. They need runs.
Well, on the Dalton Varsho side of things, his average is 158, so not good. 6 hits, 4 walks. His OPS plus is plus 26. That's how I know that Kevin Kiermaier's is not a lie, and he has 10 strikeouts. I would say if I'm gonna pick between a player right now between these two, I'm definitely going with Dalton Varsho. I think at times this season he's looked better. I just don't think the hits, in terms of the hit numbers there, and the average, of course, comes with that. But
we're talking Varsho now, right?
We're talking about Varsho, and yeah. I think there's just more. Seems to be the ceiling seems to be a bit higher. Seems to be he has more power. Obviously, I think there's just a bigger upside.
And I agree with that. And it's something that's kind of ringing in my head a little bit is maybe Kiermaier's injured. Maybe he's got something going on, because I noticed that when a consistent player tends to fall off, tends to not hit, maybe there is something underlying that we just don't know about yet. But if he's not that consistent, because how was his spring training? I think he was okay in spring training, was he not, Kevin Kiermaier? So maybe that's the answer, is maybe he's injured right now.
Well, I hope not, because
one of the issues too. But
one of the issues last year that he admitted in an off-season interview with Mike Wilner is that he was having foot problems, like big time foot problems. I still am struggling with why the Jays signed him in December, but I don't know.
Well, they needed somebody. They had to do some signings
for sure. But
and if you don't sign him, who do you sign? Who do you get? Who wants to come here?
But we're not talking about the last week of February,
to be back.
Right? He wanted to be back, but he didn't have. He admitted he didn't have a lot of options. He admitted that he was having foot problems last year because of the turf. On and on. And as I said, I like Kevin Kiermaier, but he's never really been great with the bat. And maybe he is injured. That's a good possibility. I would go with Kirk, center field. I would probably, if there is.
Or you mean Varsho?
Sorry,
not
Kirk. No, yeah. Sorry.
I was gonna say.
Sorry, I don't. Why did I say Kirk? Let's put the slowest player in the history of the major league.
Because we're talking about terrible players.
Freudian slip.
Yeah.
So I put Varsho in center. If there is a lefty on the mound, I'd probably go with maybe IKF in center. I think, get him out there when you can. Hopefully you get him going. But I don't know. I don't think this team can afford to be playing players that just can't hit. It's just that ship has sailed, and the pressure's on this year.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just like the Tony Clement or Travis or David Snyder, when he hits that almost walk-off home run and they didn't play him the next day because the analytics said don't. And then following night, I think it was Ernie Clement, he gets a hit, and it's like, did he play? I don't remember if he started the next day, but if somebody is hot, you got to keep them in there. And if they're getting a walk-off home run or a big hit, I think you need to play them the next day, despite what the analytics say, because they're not getting the runs from the people that need to produce the runs, like the
Yeah.
Kevin Kiermaiers, like the Alejandro Kirks.
Well, we can have a conversation about analytics another day. I don't know. I don't know what analytics these guys are looking at because it ain't working. And I unfortunately I had a large rant that had to get cut out of the last episode because we had some audio problems. But I think the home opener, this is positive. Get a couple wins on the board, series win, move forward into the weekend against
Mm-hmm.
Colorado. Maybe you can get some momentum going, but I do see, game three, which we're going to talk about now, like I do see the same issues. Game three, 3:07 first pitch. It's the first work from dome game, Rob, which hopefully maybe we might attend a few of these this year. Ends up being a 6-1 loss. Doesn't really tell the story of the game. The story of the game was this was a very tight one, a 1-1 game. It was a 1-0 game for Seattle. Vladimir Guerrero responds with a monster home run, which I think is a big positive. He's getting a hold of a
Mm-hmm.
few pitches this year and goes into the bottom of the ninth inning. And actually, before we do that, I'm just going to go over Kikuchi's pitching line because I thought it was everyone's talking about how great the pitching is on this team. While that road trip, I don't think that was really the case. But another 6 innings for a Toronto Blue Jays starter. So we have 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. Pretty typical Kikuchi pitching line, essentially. Like there's a walk or two thrown in and a load of strikeouts. But game 3, 1-1 going into the bottom of the ninth inning, Rob. And I don't know if you saw this. I think you might have been. I think you might have been running for the go train at this point. But it's 1-1, and the Jays really set up this half inning, and it's really is it starts to go as well as you can really hope. So Bo Bichette grounds out, not great, but Justin Turner then singles left field. Davis Schneider is then brought on as a pinch runner. Kevin Biggio then gets hit by a pitch, and Kirk lines out to right field following that. I thought he
Mm-hmm.
put a really good swing on that ball and was just a little unlucky there. So following that, Kevin Kiermaier's spot in the lineup is up, and as I think as you would, given how bad he's been playing, Daniel Vogelback comes on as a pinch hitter. He walks. IKF comes on to pinch run for Vogelback in case. So we have the bases loaded at this point. And
Mm-hmm.
Ernie Clement, I didn't think it was like a great at bat, but I did think that, the contact he got on that final, what ended up being the final out of the game, like I thought it was pretty good. He didn't mail it in like George Springer in New York the weekend prior, but it was. I think I'm seeing. I want to take the positives because I think I'm seeing like at least there's better at bats and at times. The Jays still didn't score enough runs because they don't score in this half inning. They go to the 10th, and Tim Meza comes on, which I think would probably be, well, maybe not a Jordan Romano spot, but it might be an Eric Swanson spot or a Yimi Garcia spot. Anyway, Tim Meza gives up a home run to Cal Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
Jays killer Cal Raleigh strikes again. He struck multiple times in this series. I don't really want to talk about Cal Raleigh because it's not a Mariners
Yeah.
podcast, and he seems to be getting into it with John Schneider, which we'll see how that develops because the Jays will go to Seattle later in the year. But basically, Tim Meza gives up a home run. Then our penny stock Mitch White comes on, gives up 4 more runs, and they go on to win 6-1. Really, if this team was a little more successful at the plate in this game, I think it was kind of that 2023 Blue Jays struck again, where they just couldn't
100%.
really string things together.
Yeah.
Vladdy hits a monster home run, but it's just, again, not enough. And,
Yeah.
you win the series, but, there was that a sweep was on the table to take there.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said before, and like we talked about with the two closers, that just goes to show their worth and why we need them back sooner rather than later. And it just goes to show that the Jays need runs. You're not going to win a game with 1 or even 2 runs. They need to produce, especially when they have runners in scoring position. And I mean, the way I feel about Kirk, but good at
Mm-hmm.
bat, puts a charge in it. Well, that's all great, but you didn't get a run in.
Yeah.
And that's a spot where he has got to do something. And maybe he was trying too hard. All he needed was a single to just get the one run in, and then he did it. And you can move all the pieces and pinch runner and pinch hitter, but at the end of the day, one of your main guys did not come through. I mean, and early Clement, I think he just did a little like blooper, which ended up getting caught, but just goes to show like here you have this like rookie kid, and I would have much rather seen something like that than Kirk flying out or lining out again.
Well, I think Alejandro Kirk is starting. He's coming up to play, like he's coming up to bat with in key situations and not coming up with anything. And I think this is a worrying sign. I think this is really.
Where is he in the lineup? But where is it? Is he number 6?
Yeah, he's usually 6
or 7.
He's usually road 6. But this is where I think Danny Jansen does swing for the fences, but I think Danny Jansen bring a little bit something different to the team, and hopefully when he does get an opportunity with some runners on base that he can do some damage. I don't know. I don't think Alejandro Kirk's really going anywhere, but he'll just play less with Danny Jansen back, and they'll play they'll flop them a bit, and maybe I don't know. Maybe he swings the bat a bit better when he's not playing almost every day. I know you're not gonna agree with that, but I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah, and I mean it's also worrisome too because Danny Jansen is injury prone and like made of glass. So if this is what happens, if Jansen gets hurt again, which is very likely,
he will.
And then now you have a bigger problem because he's gone, and then you have Kirk again. And if he's not producing now, then that's essentially you're playing with an 8-man lineup, not a 9.
Well, I would argue at times with this Varsho Kiermaier thing, you're probably playing with 7, depending if IKF's not hitting 6. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is kind of I think part of the problem with the Jays is the back end of that lineup is just not very good, at least right now as we stand. But they'll go on to face Colorado now. They do finish. They of course win the series. They are now 6-7, and they are 5th in the AL East. Good news is that couple wins, and they'll probably be out of the cellar there. But they are in last place as it stands. But they welcome another last place team, the Colorado Rockies, which are 3-10. They're last in the AL West, and I think this team comes in at the perfect time, Rob. Hopefully there's hopefully we can get a couple wins on the board. I'm a little
these are
worried.
These are the games you have to win, because if you don't win games like this, then you're definitely not going anywhere. And I mean, a series win is a must. I mean, a sweep is got to be in there. That's what they got to be striving for, and everybody has to step up. And maybe if they take us a win, and if the pitching's not that good for Colorado, they can get string some hits together. If you're in a slump like the Kiermaiers or the Varshos or the Kirks, maybe this is an opportunity for them to get a bit more confidence. And then when they go into the New York series, we can see a bit more hits there. But this is definitely a series must win or a sweep, and I'm hoping for a sweep, because the way they've been playing, like, you got to give us something.
Well, I don't like to hope for sweeps, but yeah, I think a sweep would be pretty ideal given who they're facing. Do you want to are you gonna make a prediction for me, Rob?
I'm gonna go with a 2 out of 3 games.
Yeah, that seems like safe bet.
Yeah, I just again, so sweeps are hard, right? And at least they're coming off a series win, they're coming off a day off, so there's really no reason why they shouldn't take at least 2. Again, we want a sweep, but sweeps are hard. I guess the pitching lineup is going to be who would be pitching tomorrow?
Is it Bowden Francis
But
or is it Gosman?
I thought I
I
heard
think it'd be
Manoa might be pitching in this
no,
series.
no, no.
Did I?
No. He is pitching this weekend, but he's in pitching in Buffalo.
Okay,
He's
okay, maybe
definitely
that's what
not
I heard then.
pitching. And you know
Okay,
what? Like if they called him up after that start in in Dunedin, whew, I'd be down at the Rogers Center, protesting or
yeah,
worse, because there's no way he
he still has work to
that's
do.
it. Oh, he has a ton of work to do. But I would believe
Yeah,
it would probably be Gosman. It would then be Bowden
I
Francis,
guess
and then
Bowden Francis, and
back
then
over.
back to Barrios.
Yeah, back around. So
Yeah, so I mean, definitely we should be getting wins out of Gosman and Barrios. Bowden Francis, well,
well, we'll see. We shall
I don't know.
see.
Maybe that's a. I don't think they do openers anymore, but maybe that's an opportunity to say, put in Mitch White, make him an opener, and then Bowden Francis for a few innings. Maybe we
Well,
get Romano and Swanson back, and maybe they just come in just for like a low leverage, just to.
I those guys are in Buffalo too, so I don't think we'll be seeing this weekend. But hopefully they're on the mend, and hopefully we'll see them back in the bullpen very soon. Rob, I think that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me.